So let's talk about Microsoft Power Apps. You've probably heard the buzz, right? It's pitched as this total game changer, a platform that promises to turn basically anyone in your company, from HR to sales, into an app developer. It's a really powerful idea. But here's the thing. If you actually listen to people on the ground, you start hearing two completely different stories.
See, on one hand, it's this absolute dream come true for businesses that just want to automate things and move fast. But then, on the other hand, you hear these whispers and sometimes, outright shouting from professional developers that it's a frustrating, pull-your-hair-out nightmare. So, which one is it? Let's dig in and find out.
All right, let's start with the bright and shiny side of things. The official story. What is this big promise that has so many companies so excited about Power Apps?
Okay, so at its core, Power Apps is a tool for building your own custom applications. But the real key here is that it's not some standalone thing. No, it's designed to tap into the entire Microsoft platform. We're talking SharePoint, Teams, Office 365, all the tools your business probably already uses every single day.
And you can see why the sales pitch is so compelling, right? You get mobile-friendly apps your team can use from anywhere. They're built not by super expensive programmers, but by your own people, the experts in your business. And since it's all part of the Microsoft ecosystem you're likely already paying for, the promise is high security and way lower costs than some custom-built solution.
And here's a perfect example of what that looks like in the real world. Imagine some kind of emergency happens. Instead of waiting weeks for your IT department to build a tool, you could, in theory, spin up an app in just a few days. An app that tracks employee safety and sends out critical updates. I mean, that's a kind of speed you just can't get with traditional development.
Or think about a headache that pretty much every business has: onboarding new employees, right? All that paperwork, all those checklists. The promise here is that you can build a simple app that digitizes and automates that whole process. It gives new hires a much smoother, more modern experience from day one.
And it totally works for operations, too. Instead of some clunky spreadsheet, your warehouse team gets a simple app on a tablet. They can scan barcodes, update stock levels, and get this, it can automatically alert you when you're running low on something. This right here, this is the dream scenario. It's fast, it's efficient, and it's empowering for your team.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, if it's so amazing, why aren't professional developers throwing a party? Well, this is where we get to the other side of the story, the developer backlash.
This is a direct quote from a developer forum on Reddit, and wow, it really captures the feeling of a lot of tech professionals. For them, the experience isn't empowering at all. It's infuriating.
And their complaints are very specific. They use phrases like half-functional jankiness, where features just don't quite work right. They complain about awful delegation, which is a super critical function for how an app handles large amounts of data. If it fails, the app gets super slow or just breaks. And they argue that for anything truly complex, it stops being low code and just turns into a huge mess of ugly workarounds.
Here's another one, this time from a seasoned pro who's worried about what happens down the road. When he says MDA and DV, he's talking about the core building blocks, model-driven apps, and Dataverse, which is Microsoft's database. To this developer, these tools don't feel robust. They feel fragile, like something that's going to be a total nightmare to maintain and fix later on.
So what is going on here? How can one single platform create such wildly different experiences? Is it a game changer, or is it just a frustrating toy? How can both of these stories possibly be true at the same time?
Well, the answer, as it turns out, is that Power Apps isn't just one single thing. The key to solving this whole mystery is understanding that you're actually dealing with a tale of two very, very different kinds of apps. Yep, the answer is right here. Power Apps isn't one tool. It actually lets you build two fundamentally different types of applications: Canvas apps and model-driven apps. And trust me, understanding the difference between these two is the key to unlocking this whole puzzle.
So a Canvas app is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You start with a totally blank screen, kind of like a PowerPoint slide, and you have complete creative control. You can drag and drop buttons, text boxes, images, whatever you want, wherever you want. This is absolutely perfect for those simple, focused, task-based apps, like that event sign-up form or the inventory checker we mentioned earlier.
Now, a model-driven app is the complete opposite. It starts with your data.
First, you have to define your business data structure in Microsoft's database, Dataverse. Then, the app's layout is pretty much generated for you based on that data. It's way more rigid, sure, but it's built to handle really complex, data-heavy processes from start to finish.
And this is where it all clicks into place. The citizen developer, let's say an HR manager, wants to automate a simple onboarding checklist. They pick up a Canvas app and they absolutely love it. It's fast, it's flexible, and they feel totally empowered. But the pro developer, who's been tasked with building a massive full-scale customer management system, they're often pushed towards a model-driven app. And that's where they hit a wall. They run into all those limitations and find it so frustratingly restrictive compared to the professional tools they're used to working with.
So the big takeaway is this. Both stories are true. The paradox was never about Power Apps being good or bad. It's about a mismatch of tools, users, and expectations. When you use a simple tool for a simple job, it's a huge success. But when you try to force that simple tool to do a really complex job, well, that can be a recipe for disaster.
And realizing all this leads us to one final, really critical issue that every single organization needs to think about before they jump into the Power Apps world.
This quote just nails it. When you give everyone in your company the power to build their own apps, you will inevitably create what the tech world has been calling shadow IT for years. People start building their own solutions to their own problems, which sounds amazing until you think about security or data consistency or what happens when the person who built that mission-critical app suddenly leaves the company. And this is exactly why you can't just hand out the keys to the kingdom without a strategy. To avoid total chaos, the companies that do this well all have a governance plan. And it really boils down to a few key things. You need someone in charge, an admin. You need a clear strategy for where and how apps get built. And you need to implement controls to prevent a digital Wild West of unsupported, insecure apps from popping up everywhere. And that really brings us to the final, essential question you have to ask yourself. Power Apps can absolutely empower your team to build and innovate faster than ever before. No doubt about it. But that power comes with a big responsibility to govern it properly. So the real question isn't just, should we use Power Apps? It's, are we actually prepared for everything that comes next?